Sure your cell phones off. If they're not off, turn them off. The matter before the court today is the Charlene v. Red Devon. Is the plaintiff ready?
We're ready, Your Honor.
Defense ready?
Yes.
I see the jury's ready. It's all sworn in and set to go. So I'll call on plaintiff's counsel for the opening statement on behalf of the plaintiff.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, members of the court, sometimes bad things happen in life, and we're left asking who is to blame. It's human nature to look for the true answer when that question arises. Our court system, a system that you guys are now a part of, is a way that we seek the truth. This is a case about truth just as much as it is a case about fault. Today you are here to decide who is at fault for the death of a prize bull, Big Lou. On the morning of March 23, 2011, the plaintiff, R.C. Charlene, started her day like any other. She wakes up at the crack of dawn around 5 a.m. to tend to her chores around the ranch, the Double Knot Ranch. This might include checking in with her ranch hands, making a few calls, feeding and taking a head count of cattle. Everything was in its right place that morning, so she decides to take a break around 7 to eat breakfast. After breakfast, she resumes her chores, checking the irrigation ditches around the ranch. Around 9 a.m., Charlene receives a phone call from Carter County Sheriff Dusty Rhodes. Rhodes was calling to tell RC that his bull had somehow gotten out of the pasture and into the road, and was now laying in the road with 4 broken legs, and it doesn't look good. You see, while RC was taking care of matters around her ranch, Kelly Hereford was driving into town on Carter County Road to get to school where she is pursuing a degree in graphic design, with the defendant Red Devon following. As Kelly crested a hill, she noticed Big Lou standing in the road. While we all agreed that whatever happened in the next couple of seconds is the direct cause of the death of Big Lou, we disagree on exactly what did happen. Today you will hear conflicting stories. Red Devon claims that Kelly had already hit the bull before she hit her truck. While you will hear testimony from the defendant, we will provide testimony that this fact is in doubt. Without Big Lou, R.C. Charlene's income has suffered considerably. Today she is suing Devon for stud fees. This morning you will hear from Kelly Hereford, who will tell you what truly transpired that fateful spring morning. You will also hear from R.C. Charlene, who will tell you her side of the story. And you will hear from Cody Barzona, the ranch manager at the Double Knot, who will tell you how well her fences are tended to. During this trial, there are a few points we ask you to keep in mind. The law provides that any person handling a motor vehicle will demonstrate reasonable care over said vehicle. Reasonable control is defined by observing road conditions, other drivers, and adjusting speed accordingly. It's also defined by stopping a reasonable distance. Failing to do any of these things is considered negligence. We also ask you to remember the owner of livestock has duty to keep reasonable care of his animals. This includes keeping the animals fenced. If the owner fails to do this, then it may be the evidence of negligence. At the end of this trial, you will be asked again, who is to blame? I believe Red Devon is responsible for the death of Big Lou, and I'm confident that you will agree with me.
Lady, thank you.
Thank you.
Defense counsel.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, today marks 574 days since this accident has taken place. The question is, not who hit who, but better who hit who when, and for Pete's sake, why was the bull owned by R.C. Charlene in the road? Driving down County Road 377 is almost everyone, from college kids to parents. This road is getting closer and closer to the city limits every day. Red Devon and Kelly Hereford were just 2 of the people using this road as a daily commute. Having traveled down this road, both drivers were not expecting a bull to be standing in the middle of it. Both being frightened with the fact, slammed on their brakes, causing this accident. Now we have to stop and learn more about who Red Devon, Kelly Hereford, and R.C. Charlene are. Red Devon, a city gal, a friendly mother, very very busy, but it was just another normal day. She has to move 3 children around, plan soccer tournaments, and much more. She was not familiar with the countryside, and that did not bother her. She knew what obstacles to look out for while driving, and with Kelly Herford speeding past her, slamming on her brakes, it was a miracle that there wasn't more damage done. She also knows that livestock should be fenced and kept off the county road. The morning of the accident was also not the first time to see the gates of the Double Knot Ranch were down again. Kelly Herford, a born and raised country girl, sharing her problems as a kid, she has now set her life to a full path to happiness, becoming devoutly religious, but knowing R.C. Charlet her entire life may have played a huge part of who she was. And now R.C. Charlet, a mean-hearted spirit. She'd rather be alone than having anything to do with other people. She's uncooperative. Many people like her neighbor Chris Limousine have reached out to her about the issue, but she ignores his calls about her cattle being out, with countless encounters like not checking her gates, not having more cautious about where the livestock is. She feels like she's above the law. And under no circumstances is that fair. As a result of the negligence of R.C. Charlet, her bull being loose, her property was injured. That's her fault for not taking care of it properly, by refusing to take any calls by anyone who had any information about her gates being down and her bull being out. Today you're going to hear about how Red Devin did have control of her van, being careful and cautious at all times. While being frantic to get to class, Kelly Herford did not have any care for any of the other drivers on the road. But neither of these are to blame here. R.C. Charlet's bull was loose, and that's her fault. Thank you, Your Honor.
Very well, counsel. Plaintiff, please call your first witness.
The plaintiff would like to call Kelly Herford to the stand.
All right, Kelly, will you step forward? You'll take the witness stand right here. Herford, will you raise your right hand? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Counsel.
So, Ms. Herford, what is your current occupation?
I'm a student at Carter County Community College, and I'm trying to get a degree in computer graphics.
How long have you been there?
I've been there for a couple of years.
I need the witness to speak up a little bit, please.
Okay.
And how old are you, Miss?
I'm 20.
Now, where were you on the morning of March 23rd, 2011?
I was on my way to school, like every day, on County Road 377.
Would you mind describing County Road 377 for us?
It's a dirt road. It runs along the Double Knot Ranch. The speed limit's usually 45 miles, and there's a hill on it.
And can you describe for us your typical trip to school?
Usually I'm running about 15 minutes late, but otherwise it's just a daily routine.
Do you know where on County Road 377 you were at the time of the accident?
It's right along the Double Knot Ranch. I just crested the hill on the 377.
You said you saw a bull as you came over the hill. What happened next?
I slammed on my brakes, and I stopped right before I hit him. I was about 2 feet away from him, and a few seconds later was when I was hit by Red Devin from behind.
Do you recognize the bull then?
I did. Right before I was hit, I noticed it was Big Lou. And I raised Big Lou, so I definitely knew what he looked like.
What did you do after the accident?
I got out of the car and the truck, and I went over to look at Big Lou and see how bad the damage was.
Did you call anyone or talk to anyone?
No.
What were you concerned about at the time?
Whether or not I killed Big Lou, really. The people behind me seemed fine. I was more worried because it was a calf I just raised and I just hit him.
With how much force do you believe you were hit?
Hard enough to break my seat, I know that much. And my foot came off the pedal because the brake because I was hit so hard.
Did you hit Big Lou?
No. I was pushed into Big Lou.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Cross-examination?
Ms. Herford, were you
Yes.
driving your vehicle that morning?
Yes.
What year is your vehicle, would you say?
It was a 2002.
What model?
It was a Ford F-150.
So you took ownership of your your 2002 Ford F-150 in the year 2011?
Yes.
So you've had it for a few months.
Yes.
About a year, you would say?
Yes.
Your dad used it on the ranch as you were growing up, correct?
Yes.
So it probably has at least 100,000 miles on it.
200,000.
200,000 plus.
Yes.
For a vehicle to last this long, doesn't it have to be properly cared for?
Yes.
Have you done an oil change?
No.
Replaced an air filter?
No.
Have you replaced your brakes?
No.
Have you recently had your brakes checked at all?
No.
Have you had your brakes checked at all since you took ownership of the vehicle?
No.
So as far as you know, these brakes on your pickup are the same brakes that the pickup was outfitted with in the factory in 2002.
No.
Do you think that a vehicle with 200,000 plus miles on it would probably need new brakes?
Yes.
Would you say you were late that morning?
Yes.
1 hour, 10 minutes, 15?
Yes.
Are you familiar with County Road 377?
Yes.
Were you driving the legal speed limit of 45 miles per hour?
Yes.
Were you driving at 45 as you crested the hill?
Yes.
Did you pass Devin that morning?
Yes.
If Devin was driving at 45 and you were fast enough to pass, wouldn't that make you speeding?
Yes.
Was there traffic that morning?
No.
Were there other cars on the highway?
Red Devon.
Have you seen anything else on the road other than cars?
Big Lou.
Have you seen cattle on the road before?
No.
You stated in your affidavit that you saw cattle on the road earlier in the week.
Along the fence.
Is this common?
Every now and then.
Did knowing there could be cattle on the road affect your driving at all? Did it cause you to be more cautious?
Not really.
Do you always show caution?
Yes.
And you said that your driving was not affected by the possibility of cattle on the road, that the possibility did not cause you to be extra cautious?
I didn't think there was cattle on the road.
Just a yes or no?
No.
Let me ask you one more time, do you always show proper caution?
Yes.
Enough caution to not have been in accidents before?
Yes.
You knew Charlotte prior to the accident, correct?
Yes.
You paid how much for the bull?
125,000.
Did Charlotte offer to fix your truck as compensation for the damage the bull had done?
Yes.
You had a strong connection with this bull, correct?
Yes.
So much of an emotional connection that when you had sold Big Lou, it was so painful you decided to no longer ranch.
Yes.
So much of an emotional connection that when you saw the big brown bull before your bumper, you were overcome with sadness?
Yes.
So much of an emotional connection that you can't accept that the bull you raised is gone. Or you don't want to accept that the bull you raised was gone.
Yes.
And so much of an emotional connection that you don't want to live with knowing that the bull's broken legs were due to negligence.
No.
No further questions.
Very good. Thank you, redirect.
How did you obtain the truck that you were driving that morning?
My dad gave it to me. He replaced it with a new truck.
And did your father maintain the truck?
Usually, he was the one that maintained all the vehicles.
See. Now, you were late to school that morning, you say. Or you said. Are you hearing that you're always late to school?
Yes. The classes used to be coming in 15 minutes late.
So, you weren't really in a hurry then?
No.
What is your connection now to Charlotte?
My dad used to work with him in the Farm Bureau.
So, old family friend.
Yes.
And would you consider yourself a careful driver?
Yes. Very careful.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Thank you, counsel. Call your next witness, please. You may step down.
I'll call R.C. Charlotte to the stand.
All right, Mr. Charlotte. Take the seat up here in this chair. Would you raise your right arm? You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Will you state your name again, please?
R.C. Charlotte.
All right, R.C. Proceed, please.
All right. What's your relationship with the Double Knot Ranch?
It's been in my family for 4 generations, and I am the current owner.
Okay. Would you describe your ranch for us, Ms. Charlotte?
It's 21,000 acres, 21,900 acres, and it runs direct to parallel to County Road 377.
Okay. Is it safe to say that that ranch is your livelihood?
That'd be correct.
Okay. Can you describe the importance of the cattle on your ranch?
They're the livelihood from their stud fees to beef. Without them, there's no income.
Ms. Charlotte, would you speak up a little bit, please?
They are everything from their stud fees to beef. So without them, there's no income.
Very good. Who was the owner of that bull that was killed on March 23rd?
I am.
And how did you obtain Big Lou?
I got him at the county fair in 2006. He was raised by Kelly Hereford.
All right. And how much did you pay for this bull again?
$125,000.
Okay. And can you tell us the importance of Big Lou?
Big Lou was the price of my ranch. His stud fees were magnificent and no bull since before or after Big Lou has sold for as much as he did.
Okay. How much is Big Lou worth to you?
From his stud fees, he is a great asset to part of the ranch.
Okay. And you said you got him for $125,000. Is that the price that you would put on Big Lou?
Absolutely not. He's definitely worth much more.
All right. You stated that you lived along County Road 377. Can you describe that road for me?
It's a dirt road that's well used with rolling hills.
Okay. And is there much traffic on that road?
It is the main road.
Okay. Was it the main road between the subdivision and the Carter County city?
Correct.
And with all that traffic, how much has that changed your life on the ranch?
From the traffic coming up and down the road along my fence line, it's wearing on the fence and making it very difficult to keep it up.
All right. And if the cattle were such an important part of your ranch, do you take any extra procedures with the traffic and everything to make sure your fences are at its best?
We have a routine where we check our fence line weekly and our gates nightly.
Okay. Have you had any previous trouble with your fences before?
Yes, in the past, children have opened our gates and come in with four-wheelers and then left, leaving the gates open, although that issue was resolved later. And the north gate used to give us some trouble.
Okay. Can you tell me more in depth about the procedures to check your fences and who's responsible?
I have 15 cowhands who are split up and each take a section of the fence line weekly, and so they just make sure that it's sturdy enough to keep the cattle in.
Okay. And can you explain to me a little bit more about the teenagers' experience you've had with your fences?
They came in with four-wheelers, and they really just left the gate open, and it was a great danger to my cattle.
You had that. You had that problem subsided.
Correct. The principal at the high school talked to the children.
Okay. And with all these problems and stuff, have you been dealing with these problems and doubling up on the work?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Well then, I have no further questions, John.
Thank you, Counsel.
Does this happen quite frequently?
No.
Do you happen to get phone calls because of your livestock being outside of your fence?
Yes.
And by who?
Chris Simsing?
Do you answer these calls?
No.
So you answered to everyone else's call but Limousine?
Correct.
When was the last time you've answered a phone call from him?
Months.
Has it been over a year?
Possibly.
Would it be correct to say that he calls you more than once a week?
Yes.
So he does call you frequently.
Correct.
Does he usually call you about your cattle being out?
Or my fence line.
Would it matter if he was calling about your livestock being outside of your fence?
Yes.
And is it true that you got a call from Limousine the morning of the accident?
Correct.
And did you take this call?
No,
Did he leave you a voicemail?
I believe so.
And did you listen to it?
No.
And can you recall what time he called you?
No, I cannot.
He called you exactly at 7:30 in the morning, correct?
I don't know.
Which was an hour before the accident, correct?
Yes, it would be.
So do you think that if you would have taken the phone call from him, you could have prevented your livestock being out of the fence?
Yes,
So you could have prevented the accident, correct?
correct.
Did you have your ranch hand check the fences the morning of the accident?
Yes, I did.
Did you have him check it before the accident?
It was not necessary, no.
So you had him check it after the accident?
Correct.
And was your gate open or closed?
Not that he could find. It was closed.
Do you check your fences every day?
We only check it weekly.
So you say that you've had troubles with teenagers being in your fences, correct?
Correct.
And did you report it?
Yes.
Who did you report this to?
Actually, I don't think I did.
So, do you think that your fences are secure?
Yes.
And you state in your affidavit that your cattle can get loose by rubbing against the gate posts.
Yes.
Do you think that you should have made a more secure way of keeping your fences closed?
Possibly.
Have you ever tried locks on your gates to keep them closed?
No.
Have you ever considered this?
It would be impractical.
Did you know Kelly Herford before the accident?
I need both of you to speak up, please.
Yes.
And did you pay for the damages to his truck?
Yes.
And did you buy him a new truck?
Yes.
Did you think about covering the costs for Red Devon also?
No.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Very good. Redirect.
Thank you, Your Honor. Could you state to me your experiences with Chris Limousine?
Chris Limousine has constantly called to me, becoming really just a great nuisance. He's obsessively called me.
Okay. And he's called you almost daily, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would you say that these calls, like 70% of them would probably be necessary?
No.
Has Chris Limousine been your, been more of a friend?
No.
Why? Okay, yeah. And Kelly Herford, you and her family have been friends for a while, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you're a good person, right?
Let's think so.
So naturally, you would want to help out your lifelong friend.
Objection.
Sustained.
So you would want to naturally help your friends, your lifelong friends.
Yes.
Very good. And Devin, Red Devin, you don't know her at all, correct?
Correct.
So naturally, being good is one thing, but going out of the way to spend an extra thing to cover for a different person person is not exactly something you do.
Covering the cost for my best friend's little girl is one thing, but I don't have enough money to spend on somebody I don't know and possibly kill my favorite my cow.
And being able to help your friend, that costs some money, right?
Yes.
With Big Lou gone, that hurts you a little bit, right?
Yes. Very much so.
No further questions.
I'd like to call your next witness.
They could call Cody Barnett up this day.
Ms. Barzone, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? All right. Counsel and witness, you really need to speak up. I wish I knew how to control the microphones here, but I don't. It's so darn important for this jury particularly to hear what you're saying, your questions and your answers. So take your voice up a little bit, all right?
Can you state your name for the court?
Cody Barzona.
What do you do for a living?
I am the ranch manager on the Double Knot Ranch.
What is your history in the ranch business?
After I went to college and got my degree in animal husbandry and vet tech, and after graduating I went as a ranch hand on the Hardy Ranch. I also grew up on a ranch.
Permission to approach the witness.
Sure.
Can you please tell me what this is?
This is a map I drew of the Double Knot Ranch and everything around it, where the county road, 377 runs along, and where the wreck happened.
I would like to,
Are you going to offer that as an exhibit?
yes,
One moment,
Exhibit
please. You give opposing counsel a copy of that?
no,
Make sure they have a copy, then we'll come back to your offer.
okay. What are your duties on the ranch?
Just a moment. Does opposing counsel have a copy of this proposed exhibit?
Exhibit,
It's the map. I think that may
yes, Your Honor, we
be,
do,
have it there?
right here.
You have a copy now?
Yes.
Counsel, you've offered that exhibit, right?
Yes.
I haven't looked at evidence yet. I need further foundation. For instance, I need to know when she drew it and why she drew it.
Okay. When did you draw this map?
I don't know. The day after, or a couple weeks after the wreck, I want to say,
And why did you draw it?
to show where the Double Knot Ranch runs along and where the wreck happened and the fence line on County Road 377.
Counsel, is that to, witness, is that to scale?
I think so.
No, it isn't.
No?
Its purpose is to show the general area, is that right?
Yes.
To be of help to the jury in that regard.
Yeah.
Is the general directions indicated there accurate? Of course.
Yes.
The exhibit may be received.
Thank you. What are your duties on the ranch?
I check fence lines and check the herd and keep a count and make sure everything's in line.
Do you do that all by yourself?
No, we have 15 ranch hands to help us.
And how do you supervise those ranch hands?
Well, we split them up and make sure, like, the ones that know how to do it are getting help from the ones, or they're helping the ones that don't know. And we just split them up in each section, and we just make sure that they get the job done.
What does your daily schedule look like on the ranch?
Well, start in the morning, we get up early, and just go out and check the herd first thing and feed and make sure that all the gates are up. And then as the day proceeds, we do anything that needs to be done, like if the fences need work or the cows need their shots or anything like that.
And were your gates usually always in good shape?
Well, I know as a ranch, not all gates or fences are going to be fine, but they're in good condition to where, they're up to where cows don't get out. Cows do rub up against them though, and so we fix as much as we can.
How do you make sure the gates are maintained properly?
We do a nightly check, so at night we go out, all the ranch hands go out and make sure all the gates are in good condition and are up.
Okay. Do you have any history of problems with your fences?
Yes, we've had problems before.
And what kind of problems were those?
Well, we noticed that the fences were getting cut and the gates were down, even though we checked them the night before.
And when you started to see your fences being cut, where did it usually occur?
In the northern section by County Road 377.
And after you figured out who was cutting your fences, what did you do?
Like RC said, we called the high school, and the students were warned not to go around there anymore.
Did it stop?
For seniors, yeah.
What reasons do you have for believing it has started again?
Well, the fences is starting to get cut and, just again, starting to be down.
So, would you say that you worked hard to make sure that that problem stopped the first time?
Yes.
And you've had problems since?
Yeah.
The day of the accident, did you check the fence line along 377?
Not until after.
Okay. And can you describe what you did and what you saw?
Well, when I got there, after RC called me, I saw the remains of the truck and the remains of Big Lou. And then while RC was talking to the driver of the pickup, then me and my assistant went and rode the fence line to see if the gate was up or not.
What were you doing the morning of the accident?
I was in the south pasture, checking on the herd.
And how did you become aware of the accident that morning?
RC called me just before 9.
Did your guys' conversation include anything else?
Well, he asked about the gate, and I told him that we checked it Monday morning and we fixed it, and it was all fine.
What happened after you got to the accident?
We went after the accident, and I talked to Charlotte. I rode the fence line.
No further questions, Governor.
Suzanne?
Have you worked on other ranches before?
Yes.
One of those ranches was Heartache Ranch, wasn't it?
Yes.
Did you have a good experience on Heartache Ranch? you have a good experience the whole time you were there?
Yes.
You did have a bad experience on Heartache Ranch. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Did your boss or did your bad experiences lead you to losing your job?
No. Yeah. Maybe. I don't know.
What is it?
Yes.
Did you lose your job because you didn't do what your boss wanted you to do?
Yeah.
Have you been put in the same position with R.C. Charlet?
No.
Has R.C. Charlet ever threatened to fire you for not doing your job?
No.
Were you threatened by Charlet for the fences and for not being up and keeping the cattle in the gates?
No.
Does Charlet expect you to check the fence line every day?
No.
Do you check the fence line on your own every day?
Yeah. No.
So you are not doing what your boss expects you to do?
I am.
So do you check the fence once a week?
Yes.
So who contacted you the day of the accident?
RC.
How long did it take you to get to the accident?
About 10 minutes.
Did you check the north gate on the way to the accident?
No.
I object, Your Honor. Cody Barzona is in contempt of court. She stated in her affidavit that she, quote, I had a choice, either put an end to
Just
this
a moment,
problem.
counsel. Court doesn't recognize the affidavit. If you wish to cross-examine or bring out direct, you do it with the witness, not with the court. The court doesn't have the affidavit, it's not in evidence. Therefore, you're reading from something that doesn't have it, it doesn't constitute evidence. It's available for cross-examination or for impeachment. And that's not the proper method of doing it. Your objection is overruled. Please continue.
So did you check the fence line after the accident?
Yes.
You did not check before you got to the accident?
No.
That's all I have, Your Honor.
Very good. Can you redirect?
Why did you quit working at the Heartache Ranch?
They made it into a poodle farm. I love animals and all, but poodles aren't my thing.
And how often do you usually check the fence line again?
Once a week.
Once a week? No further questions, Your Honor.
Witness may step down. Anything further from the plaintiffs? Does the plaintiff rest then? I need someone to tell me yes or no.
Yes, Your Honor.
Plaintiff rests? All right, we're going to turn to the defense case. Will the defense calls first witness, please?
Your Honor, I'd like to call Chris Limousine to the stand.
Chris, will you raise your right hand and swear that this is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Can we speak or say your name again, please?
Chris Limousine.
You need to speak up, Chris, all right? All right. Continue.
Can you please
yourself to the court?
My name is Chris Limousine.
Is that working now? Has it been working all the time?
Yeah, Your Honor, they just need to snuggle right up.
Well, get up to that microphone, Chris, like you are now. Good for you.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
I'm a city slicker, and I'm not too big of a fan of the country. And that's kind of back.
How are you related to this case, Limousine?
Well, I'm the one that supposedly calls ridiculously amount on a weekly basis.
And you have a wife, correct?
That's correct.
And did you ever visit the ranch before her mother passed away?
Yes, several times.
What did you think about taking over the ranch after she passed away?
I thought it would be just more of a hassle than anything, because I don't like it out there, and I'm totally a city dude, and I was born and raised in New York City, and spent most of my life living in Manhattan, so.
And what were your intentions with the ranch after taking it over?
My intentions were to just sell it immediately.
Did you find a buyer soon after?
Yeah. Not too long after, we found a buyer, but then our plans got spoiled.
And what happened with that plan?
Well, there was one person that screwed my whole plan up.
And who was that one person?
R.C. Charlet.
How was she able to stop you from selling the ranch?
She filed a bogus lawsuit, and it scared away all those buyers.
And what sort of other problems do you have with RC?
Besides the fact that, her whole livestock is just out running amok all around the whole county. Other than that, then I'd say, no, not many.
And how many times did you see her livestock outside of the fence?
Really an unbelievable amount.
And how did you solve that problem?
I tried to solve it by making some phone calls to her, but she never answers the phone.
And when she wouldn't answer, what would you do instead?
Each time I would leave a voicemail.
Would you say that you're a friendly neighbor by doing that?
I would say I'm a very friendly neighbor.
What happened the morning of the incident?
It was about 7:15 in the morning, and me and my wife, we were on our way to the airport because we were gonna go and visit some friends in New York, and we were just we're going down Road 377.
And did you notice anything while driving?
Yeah. My wife and I noticed that one of Charlet's fences were down.
And what was the gate at 7:15 when we were driving by?
It was completely down.
And did you see any livestock around?
Yeah. I seen Big Lou standing right there at the opening, inside the fence line, of course, but right there at the opening, yes.
And did you try to communicate with her to tell her?
I called her right away.
And what were her exact words when you called her?
Leave a message after the beep.
So you left a message for her, correct?
Of course I did.
And what happened when you got back?
Once we got back from New York, I noticed that one of my fences were down, destroyed actually, and it had been right where one of RC's livestock had been standing right before we left.
And again, did you try to call her?
Yeah, and actually she answered.
did she say on the phone?
Well, I told her I was gonna sue her for the damage done to my fence.
And again, can you please state to the court how many times you would see her livestock out?
It's unbelievable how much I see her livestock out. It is ridiculous. Constantly.
And you would try to reach her every single time, correct?
No, not every single time. I usually limit it down to about 1 call a day.
And how accurate was Charlay's statement about your phone calls?
That was a complete exaggeration.
And you say that you tried to sell your land, correct? Did she stop you?
Yes, that's correct.
How many folks have tried to sell their land just like you have?
Several.
And how hard was it for them?
Actually, I'd say it was fairly easy compared to what I had.
And why is that?
Well, mainly because Double Knot and Pitchfork Ranch right there, right next to each other, we each own such a good chunk of land that, you know, it's a decent distance away from Carter City. So as long as it wasn't, you know, right next to him, or right next to her, that she wasn't going to try to prevent, you know, anybody from selling their land like she did to me.
And would you consider yourself a friendly neighbor?
I would say I'm an incredibly friendly neighbor.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
You tried to sell your land before, correct, Mr. Lizzie?
Could you restate the question?
You stated that you had tried to sell your land, correct?
Yes.
But your deal fell through because of a legal issue, correct?
Because of a bogus lawsuit, yes.
And this was brought up by Ms. Charlotte?
Yes.
She stopped at using the legal system.
Yes, she did.
So Ms. Charlotte legally stated her concerns about your land deal and said the legal system agreed with her.
Yeah, the legal system out here.
A yes or no answer will suffice.
Yes.
But you still hold this against her.
Yes.
Now, the morning of the accident, March 23rd, at 7:15, you drove by Miss Charlay's property, correct?
I was just driving down Road 377.
All right. You saw Big Lou by the road, yes?
So, yes.
And you recognize that there would be a real danger of Big Lou getting out on the road, correct?
Yes.
That Big Lou getting out on the road caused a serious accident?
Yes.
And you called Miss Charlay,
Correct.
who hasn't taken your calls in months.
Correct.
But you could have called the sheriff, correct?
I could have.
And explained what the problem was?
Yeah. But usually that's more, RC's job.
But you could have called the sheriff, explained that Ebola of Varses was by the road and she wasn't taking your calls anymore, correct?
Yes.
And it's reasonable to say that Miss Charlay would take a call from the sheriff, correct?
Yeah, I believe so.
But you didn't do this.
I ain't got all day. I got a plane to catch. Gotta
You
get on.
couldn't have made one phone call on the way to the airport.
I did. It was Darcy.
But you couldn't have made one that you have made another to the sheriff after making a small, leaving a small voicemail for Miss Charlotte.
Yeah.
And it's also correct to say that with a little bit of work, you could have also lured the bolt back into the gate, correct?
Yeah, if I wanted to miss my flight.
Yes, you could. But you chose not to.
Right.
You could have also closed the open gate, correct?
Probably could have lifted it back up, yeah.
Alright, but you chose not to do this.
No.
So you could have called the sheriff, you could have lured the bull away, and you could have closed the gate. But instead, you chose to call a woman who has stopped answering your calls, correct?
That's great.
So you could have stopped this whole accident by doing something that would actually work, that you knew could have actually worked instead of calling, sorry. You could have stopped this accident, but you
Objection.
chose.
What's the objection? What's the basis?
For
Counsel, what's the basis for the objection?
the question calls for hearsay.
Overruled. Continue, please. This is cross-examination.
So you could have stopped this accident, but you chose not to do anything that would actually work, yes?
Yes.
No further questions, Chairman.
Redirect.
Would you consider yourself a friendly neighbor?
Yes, very.
And you would only call Charlotte, why?
Why would I call her?
Yeah, why would
To inform her that her livestock's, all over the county,
And you usually always leave a voicemail, correct?
every time.
And does she usually respond?
Yeah, she usually reacts pretty quickly. She gets the things fixed after I leave voicemail.
Do you think that she is a friendly neighbor?
I think she is the opposite of a friendly neighbor.
And were you in a hurry on your way to the airport?
Yes, indeed I was.
Did you recognize the danger of Big Lou being on the road?
Yeah, but Big Lou had not been on the road yet.
Did you make an effort to get the bull put away?
Nope. Well, I guess I gave a call to RC.
And since you're not trained with livestock, do you think that would have been safe to try to put Big Lou in the fence?
No way.
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Very well, counsel. You may step down. Call your next witness, please.
I'd like to call Sheriff Dusty Rhodes. Stand.
Sheriff Rhodes. Would you raise your right hand, please? Swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
State your name again, please.
Dusty Rhodes.
Proceed, counsel.
Could you reveal to the jury your name and background?
My name is Dusty Rhodes. I'm 37 years old and I'm the sheriff for Carter County.
How long have you been in law enforcement?
I've been in law enforcement for 16 years.
How would you break that up?
I spent 7 years at the Carter County Police Department, 4 years as a deputy sheriff with the Carter County Sheriff's Office, and then the remaining 5 years as Carter County Sheriff.
And how did you get this position?
Ever since I was a kid, I wanted to be a sheriff. So as soon as I left the academy, I started making political connections because the job of sheriff is just as much politics as it is law enforcement. In 2006, I was given the chance to run for sheriff after the previous sheriff, Buck Rogers, retired to do some mixed martial arts fighting.
On the morning of March 23rd, 2011, what did you observe as you arrived at the scene?
After I arrived at the scene, I observed Red Devon and Kelly Herford standing outside of their vehicles. R.C. Chalet had arrived before I had made it to the scene and was talking to both of them. And in front of the Herford vehicle, I saw the bull in question, Big Lou, lying on the ground.
And Big Lou was laying on the ground for what reason?
It appeared as if it had been hit by the Herford vehicle.
Your Honor, can I read jury instruction 13?
No, you may not. The jury instruction is for the jury, not for the witness. You may question without alluding to the instruction of using the language in there.
Duty of livestock belongs to who in this case?
In this case, the duty of the livestock belongs to the owner.
And the owner is?
In this case, the owner would be Miss R.C. Chalet.
And the duties of livestock owner are keeping the cattle inside the fence, correct?
Yes, they have to make an active effort to keep their livestock off of public roadways.
What's the location of the scene?
The location of the scene is on County Road 377, just near the county line.
Sheriff Dusty Rhodes, would you agree that County Road 377 is in fact a dusty road?
It is a 2-lane dirt road. In my opinion, it was in fair condition at the time of the accident. It had just been graded, so it was in fairly good condition.
What did you do after you observed the scene?
I separated both drivers and took their statements separately.
After interrogating the witnesses, how did you continue to observe the scene?
After I had gotten done talking to the witnesses, my deputy Chester had arrived on scene. I had him draw out a picture of the accident. We also tried to get some skid measurements to determine how fast the vehicles were going. However, because of the nature of the road, the skids were overlapped and out of proportion, and we couldn't get accurate measurements for the vehicles.
At this time, Your Honor, I'd like to offer into evidence to the court Exhibit 1, a description of the accident drawn up by Deputy Chester.
This is the accident report itself.
Yes, and I've got copies for the jury.
Well, the jury doesn't get a copy until I allowed it in evidence. Does opposing counsel have a copy?
I can provide copies.
What I'd like you to do is take it to the witness and ask if this is a report he prepared, when he prepared it, and why he prepared it. Go ahead and ask him those questions, counsel.
Why did you prepare this statement?
It is my duty as sheriff to file an accident report in the event of a car accident.
When did you report this?
The time when I filed this accident report, it was 9:30 in the morning.
You offer it now? Any objection? All right, I'm going to allow it in evidence, and let me tell you, usually police reports, accident reports are not allowed into evidence. What's on the report may be discussed, may be talked about. The reason the report usually isn't offered or received into evidence is this contains conclusions by the investigator. And the investigator is here to testify. Therefore, there should not be the two shots. And it is based in many respects on hearsay. This particular one really isn't because it talks about the people involved and very little else. So I'll allow it into evidence. but that's basically because the other side hasn't objected as well. Exhibit 1 is received. We have plenty of copies.
Plenty of copies. Preparedness. Sheriff Rhodes, based on your experience as the sheriff, do you believe that the damage to the front of the Hereford pickup is consistent with being pushed into the bowl by another vehicle?
No.
Is it your experience that front-end damage is greater when a vehicle is traveling at speed rather than being stopped and then pushed?
Yes.
Based on your experience as a sheriff, do you really think that the distance between the bull and the front of Hereford's vehicle after the accident, do you think that Devin's van, after transferring all of its energy through the truck, would have pushed a few-ton bull that far from the truck?
No.
And what other pieces of evidence did you collect?
Because we were unable to get an accurate skid measurement for the vehicles, I had my deputy Chester pick up the debris from the area. At this time...
Objection?
Cases,
They're leading question?
they are leading. Objection sustained.
In that case, Your Honor, I have no further questions.
Very good, counsel. Cross-exam.
Are you an expert in accident reconstruction?
Technically, no.
You have not done investigation or many investigations in the 9 years you've been with the police or the sheriff's department?
I've done several investigations and we covered it in the post-account.
Sorry to interrupt. Yes or no questions for me?
Can you restate the question then?
You have done many investigations with the sheriff's department.
Yes.
You didn't give a citation to either Red Devin or Kelly Hereford of the day of the accident?
No.
You don't know if Kelly Hereford hit the bull before Devin hit him?
No.
Do you know how fast, or can you determine the speed of Devin?
I tried to determine the speed of both me.
Yes, no question, please.
No.
You can't say anything for sure except that there was an accident involving 2 vehicles and a bull, can you?
No.
This was an accident that caused a lot of damage, correct?
Yes.
You know that the insurance would need an accurate investigation report?
Yes.
You didn't bother to call an expert?
No.
The owner of the livestock needed to show responsible care to keep livestock off the road, correct?
Yes.
Does livestock ever get onto the road?
Sometimes.
Are livestock owners always liable to if the livestock gets out?
Not always.
Isn't it true that the property owner can exhibit responsible care, but livestock can still get out?
Yes.
Is it true that just because an animal gets out, that one cannot presume that that is negligence?
No.
So RC could have exhibited responsible care and still have a bull in the road?
Yes.
Would you say you're good at your job, Sheriff?
Yes.
So you are familiar with the law, I assume?
Yes.
Are you aware that you are required to take pictures for every car accident?
Yes.
And did you take pictures of the scene?
Yes.
With the standard issue camera you keep in your car, correct?
No.
Well, that's not standard protocol, is it, Mr. Rose?
No.
Do you typically follow protocol?
Yes.
But why didn't you do it this time? Or did you do it this time?
No.
So after the accident, after the accident, you remember to call the highway patrol to check the crash site, correct?
No.
Isn't that standard protocol too?
Sometimes.
Yet you didn't do it.
No.
And because you didn't do it, we do not have pictures of the accident.
No.
Your Honor, can I approach the witness?
For what purpose?
To bring up the picture.
You can show him from where you are unless you have to point to something. The witness, you have a copy of the report, don't you?
Yes, I do, Your Honor.
Proceed, counsel.
Is this the bull in front of Kelly's truck?
Yes.
Is it clear that the bull is in front of the vehicle, not under, not beside, not in front? Or like,
It was in front of the vehicle.
and this is Brad Devon's van in the back?
Yes.
So wouldn't you think if Kelly had hit the bull before he hit, or before Devon hit him, that he would be on top of the bull?
Possibly.
And no further questions.
Are you direct?
How long did you say you were in law enforcement?
16 years.
Would you say you have good judgment?
Yes.
Good judgment is pivotal to success in the field of law, isn't it?
Yes.
Did it require an expert to tell that the Hereford vehicle was speeding?
Not necessarily, no.
Did it require an expert to get Ms. Hereford to admit to speeding?
No.
Did you properly document the scene?
Yes.
Objection? Leading questions?
I'll look at this being preliminary questions. Overruled, you may proceed. But do get your preliminary questions out of the way and then get to the direct questions, all right?
Did you properly document the scene?
Yes.
Did you properly log the scene?
Yes.
And did you properly interrogate witnesses and collect evidence of the scene?
Yes.
No further questions.
You may step down. Let's call your next witness.
Defense would like to call Brad Devon to stand, please.
Ms. Devon, will you raise your right hand, please? I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Would you state your name again, please? Please take the seat. Proceed, counsel.
Can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I'm the typical soccer parent. I've been married for 12 years. I have 3 kids, ages 9, 7, and 2. Most of my days are spent taking them to school and various activities.
And where did you live prior to living in Carter County?
Well, I was raised in Cheyenne and graduated from college in 1990, got a job as an investment banker, and moved to Fort Collins.
Can you please tell us what was happening the morning of the accident?
Well, we were on our way I was taking my boys to school, and we were heading down County Road 377, and we were driving past the Double Knot Ranch, and I noticed that one of the gates was down, and that's not the first time that's happened.
How were the conditionings of the morning of the accident?
It was daylight and fairly clear out. I was driving 45 miles per hour, and of course I was paying attention to my driving.
Okay, so what happened after the accident?
After the accident, I stayed in my car until the on-car system came on, and they asked if everything was okay, and I said we were in an accident, and for them to please send help. We stayed in the car until the sheriff arrived, and I got out and talked to him and Miss Hereford, and I put a video on for the kids in the van and called the school to say the boys would be a bit late.
Who was
was present at the accident?
Well, of course, there was myself and my kids, Miss Hereford, the bull, of course, and then the sheriff showed up, and as I was talking to the sheriff, Miss Charley showed up, and they seemed to know each other, but not in a good way. And then I heard Miss Charley and Miss Hereford talking, and Miss Charley say something about somebody getting sued, and I knew right then that it was going to be me.
What did you know about the bull?
I was told it was a prize bull.
Okay, so did you notice anything abnormal about the truck?
Well, when it stopped, it looked like it didn't really stop right. It kind of bounced off to the side like it maybe hit something.
And what did you tell the sheriff that you noticed about the truck?
It looked like the bull was already on the ground before I even hit Miss Hereford.
What else do you remember about that day?
I remember whenever I got out of my van, when Miss Hereford and Miss Charley were talking, Miss Charley said, "We know what happened here, right?" And Miss Hereford said that that's what we get for letting these city folk out here.
And what do you make of that?
Well, Miss Charley isn't really too fond of city people, and Miss Hereford being involved in the accident probably wouldn't have a problem blaming somebody else, so.
As a mother, how were those moments for you when you had to slam on the brakes?
I was terrified. I was hoping that my kids would be safe and that everything would be okay.
Any further questions, Your Honor?
Cross-examination.
So, Miss Devon, you have a wife and 3 kids, correct? Or husband and 3 kids?
Yes, that's correct.
9, 7, and 2?
Yes.
And your kids were in the car with you that morning, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Is it okay if I go to the aftermath of the accident before? So, after the accident and everybody had arrived on the scene, you knew they were going to euthanize the bull, correct?
Yes, I did.
And did you watch them euthanize the bull?
Yes.
What about your kids? Were they there?
Yes, they watched too.
Even your 2-year-old daughter?
Yes.
Did that have any effect on her?
Yeah, she's having nightmares now.
Now, when you were driving down the road, what would you say the day was like?
It was clear out, but the sun was out and we were heading in east in the direction of the sun.
Were your kids, were they being quiet?
No, but that's not that's not unusual.
Your 2 sons, were they arguing?
Yes.
Something about superheroes, right?
Yes.
What about your daughter? Was she quiet?
No, she was upset at the time.
For what reason do that?
She had spilled milk on her new dress.
Okay, so weren't you also having a conversation on the phone with somebody?
Yes, I was.
Son's soccer coach, wasn't it?
Yes.
So your 2 boys were arguing and your daughter was screaming and you were on the phone. Were you trying to calm your kids down at all?
No, they're usually pretty noisy. It's not unusual for them to be like that, so.
Must be hard to talk on the phone while your kids are screaming in the back. So, would you say you were distracted? Well,
No, I had both my hands on the wheel and I was looking straight ahead. My car, through the on-car system, I can hook my phone up to it and use it hands-free.
Objection, Your Honor. The question assumes facts, not evidence.
Counsel, this is cross-examination, and the witness is volunteering a great deal here, so I'm going to allow the questioner to go on. Overruled.
Miss Devon, have you heard of inattentional blindness?
No.
Several studies have shown that if you're talking on the phone, you tend to be blind to the things around you. So you would say you're the exception to these studies?
No.
So it's possible that you could have not seen what was going on around you.
Yes.
So that could have slowed your reaction time?
It's possible.
So you could be the cause of the accident?
No.
I have no further questions.
Very good. Redirect.
Okay, so, Sterling, would you say that allowing your 2-year-old daughter to watch a euthanized bull was a bad idea?
Yeah, it was a mistake. I regret that.
But you encouraged it and it wasn't actually something that they had to watch?
No.
Okay. So can you please list some of the activities that you do on a weekly basis?
Well, I'm involved in the PTA, my kids' sports and all of their activities. I volunteer and do things like that.
And you would say you do this maybe a couple times a week?
Yeah.
So you're used to carting your kids around between soccer games and various activities. So being distracted wasn't really, like, you've already had these done enough times that you would have not been as distracted?
No, being a full-time parent, being multitasking is a job requirement. I have to do it or nothing would get done.
And the conversation on the phone with your soccer parent, was it on a speakerphone or in a device not enabling you to use your hands?
It was on a device, so I didn't have to use my hands.
Okay. And so where did you live prior to living in Carter County again?
I had lived in Cheyenne and then we moved to Fort Collins and then moved back.
Why did you move back to why?
Because we wanted to raise our kids in a smaller city. We thought Fort Collins was too large.
No further questions.
Witness may step down. Does the defense any further witnesses? Does the defense rest?
Yes.
All right, counsel, I assume all the evidence is in now. I have received, because you've offered exhibits 1 and 6, so they include their evidence. They may be shown and argued to the jury. Usually, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, at this time I would instruct you, and I'd read to you the instructions. I assume you have copies. If you don't, you can get copies of that. I'm not going to do that because there's no need to do that here. Now we're going to be blessed with the arguments of counsel. And this is when they can visit with you as to what they think the case shows and what they believe they've shown you by the evidence. And then you will deliberate and make your decision. So we'll begin with plaintiff's counsel making the initial closing statement.
Who is to blame? A question we have found ourselves repeating almost countless times in life, from things as serious as murder to matters as trivial as stealing a cookie from the jar, now presented before you again today, in this house of justice. Now, blame is not a simple thing, because justice is not a simple thing, nor is guilt. To place blame is to place guilt, and guilt is a heavy thing in this room, where we desire only justice be brought forth. We know that Kelly Hereford was driving along Carter County Route 377 on the morning of the accident. We know that Kelly Hereford was pushed into Big Lou, a prized bull, by the defendant, Red Devon. We know that Red Devon was talking on the phone at the time of the crash, among many other distractions in the vehicle at the time. And in the end, we know that poor Big Lou's legs were broken in the accident, that he was put out of his misery because of it. Sitting in this room, we were asked to decide who was to blame for Big Lou's untimely death. The defendant, Kelly Hereford, or R.C. Charlotte. the owner of Big Lou and the Double Knot Ranch. Now, R.C. Charlet can only be at fault if his fences were down in any way, and as the majority of the witnesses have said, the gate was up when it was checked after the accident, and only the defense has stated that the fence was down prior to the accident. Now, it is entirely possible that someone could have opened the gate, let Big Lou out, and closed it after. It may not have been, but could have very easily. If such were the case, our prime suspect would be Chris Limousin, who saw the gate down, yet left it alone when he could have repaired it himself and prevented us from being in this room today. But regardless of what could have happened, it didn't, and we are here. Here to bring forth the answer to the timeless question: who is to blame?
Thank you, counsel. Defense, closing statement.
Ladies and gentlemen, now that we have heard a little about everyone, it is time to clarify exactly what happened. Calling to the side of the plaintiff, Kelly Herford. As we heard from Kelly's affidavit, she is now a model citizen. Am I not correct that Kelly has been in previous accidents to her negligence put other people in danger? Could you say that from previous accidents that she was not cautious? I do believe Kelly has grown up knowing a thing or two about the laws in Wyoming. She drives an F-150 and she clearly states that no work has been done to it. Your Honor, I do believe Kelly driven on Road 377 many times to get to work, except she is always late. I mean, clearly stated by herself, and that surely shows she is a model citizen. Driving on Road 377, you could clearly see there are cattle as well, so I'm sure Kelly was aware of her surroundings. To be aware of her surroundings and the road, especially having to drive it daily, a proper lookout is necessary. Ladies and gentlemen, clearly we can all see this is a daily routine for Kelly to drive to school late, claiming herself a model citizen does not add up. It's for surely a shame that Big Lou was hit and that the bull she raised was lost, but evidently she was out of control. Her F-150 doesn't meet the standards driving on a dirt road like that. After cresting the hill on Road 377 and seeing the bull, the awareness and caution was not apparent to Kelly. She slams on her brakes. That may not work to her negligence from driving on the road many times. It is clear her surroundings being cautious has not connected. Red Devon is a typical soccer parent of 3 kids. She moved to Wyoming for her kids. Sometimes when Devon drives on Road 377, they see the fence down. On the morning before the accident, Kelly passed Devon and drove in front of her. Devon stayed behind 2 to 3 car lengths, which is safe driving. During the time of the accident, when Devon was cresting the hill behind Kelly, Devon was wearing sunglasses on her head. But the hill was blocking the sun, and following an appropriate 2 to 3 car lengths behind, Your Honor, there was not enough time to simply pull the sunglasses down, when instead Devon had to react to the car in front of her. Clearly, the lookout was not a problem for Red Devon. Barzona, the manager of the ranch, clearly has an attitude from her previous jobs. I believe Charlize, as the owner of the Double Knot Ranch, expects her to check the fences every day, according to Barzona's affidavit. She does not check the fences every day as told. Charlize's job is to make sure Barzona is doing her job. During the time of the accident, Barzona said she checked the fence before the accident, but Dusty Rhodes, the sheriff's affidavit, says Barzona checked the fence 10 minutes after the accident. Charlize contacted Barzona at 9:00 a.m., in which it took Barzona 10 minutes to actually arrive to the accident. So Barzona didn't stop to check the fences before the accident, but after. Charlace's livestock has clearly been out before. Chris Limousine calls Charlace about livestock being out, and Charlace does not answer, and she does not respond even though Chris leaves her voicemails. Obviously, we can see that Limousine was just being a good neighbor. Had you have listened to the phone call at 7:30, this accident could have been prevented. Your Honor, because of Charlace's stubbornness and unwillingness not responding to their neighbor's goodwill, Charlace could have known about the bull being out and could have contacted Barzona to manage the problem. According to Kelly's affidavit, her car was replaced by Charlace, but not for Devin. Chris Limousine is from the city and inherited the Pitchfork Ranch that abuts the Double Knot Ranch. Limousine's intentions were to sell the ranch immediately and was trying to find a buyer. The prevention was R.C. Charlace, who filed a bogus lawsuit. Limousine states in his affidavit that Charlace hometowned him, making it impossible to sell the Pitchfork. Charlace stated that I own this county. Your Honor, once again, this clearly shows that Charlace is very stubborn. Other people in Carter County do not have a problem selling the ranches, but clearly it is a very big struggle for Limousine because of Charlace. Limousine sees the cattle out and calls Charlace about it once a week and even leaves voicemails so that Charlace will know about it. Hard-headed RC should at least be able to respond to a voicemail. On the morning before the accident, Chris Limousine was driving on the road 377 to the airport. He saw the fence was down at 7:15 and Big Blue was at the opening of the gate. Even on the way to the airport, Limousine called Charlace and left a voicemail. Dusty Rose, the sheriff, was called, and according to Law 13, livestock must be out of the road. The very start of this problem started with the cattle being in the road. Due to the negligence of the livestock owner, R.C. Charlace, if the bull was kept in and if Charlace answered the Limousine's calls, which would cause extra notifications, Charlace should have taken action a lot earlier to keep the cattle in. If the bull was not in the road and Red Devin was following 3 car lengths behind Kelly, this accident would have most likely been prevented. To the accusation that most can acknowledge, we can see that Dusty was heartfelt in the situation, not giving any citations because the loss of the bull was quite hefty. All in one, a situation has a beginning and an end. It started with R.C. Charlace not maintaining her livestock. Therefore, her livestock was lost. In which living and owning the Double Knot Ranch, duty of a livestock owner should have been known. That's all I have on it.
Rebuttal. Does the plaintiff have anything further to say on the closing argument?
No, sir, Your Honor.
All right. The evidence has been received, the arguments have been made, the jury's been instructed. Now it's time for the jury to make their decision. And I assume there's a room right out through here that I want you all to go to and start your deliberations. I want counsel to stay here because I want to visit with you for a while. Jury is excused. When you have your verdict, let me know. Let me begin by apologizing to you all for a moment. I sat down here, and I should have taken the bench up there. Your line of sight, I could see was a problem for you. You have to remember, you're not talking to me when you're making your closing argument, or when you're presenting your evidence. You're talking to the jury. And so that's where your attention should be directed. This will turn. When you're making your closing arguments, you're going to turn this so you can look at the jury. If the judge is where the judge usually is, it's easy enough to do that way. But that's what you have to do. You must remember, you're talking to the jury now. They're the ones that are going to make the decision here. Second of all, you objected and overruled, you said it several times. That doesn't mean you stop objecting, all right? In this day and age that we live in now, most judges allow most evidence in for whatever it's worth. It's the easy decision. The truth of the matter, you still make your objection. You may be right, you may overrule you. You may be right, and you'll sustain it. You make the objection. I know and I'm mindful of the fact that you're doing this as an exercise for your class credit. Some of you intend and hope to go on to the competition on the state level. If you're going on to the state level, quite frankly, you have a lot of work yet to do. You don't know your objections. There was evidence coming in that should not come in. There was the means by which you're trying to get that evidence in that was wrong. The use of the affidavit. You've got to learn to use those. What's the affidavit for? It's not evidence. Two things you use those pieces of paper for. One is evidence. That's a diagram. That's a picture of the bull. That's the roll type thing. That's evidence. Affidavits are for impeachment, where the witness has said something from the witness stand, an important point, has said something opposite of what they said in their affidavit. Then you take the affidavit and you say, Mr. Witness, didn't you say such and such at one time? Or the best way to do it is to take that affidavit and go up and show the witness the affidavit. And say, is this your affidavit? Is this a statement by you under oath? Didn't you say in there? And then you read it to them. That's all you have to do. There's a conflict now between what they say on the stand and what they said in the affidavit. That's impeaching. Impeachment. That's attacking credibility. I'm jumping around a little bit here because I just want to get through this as quick as I can for you to help you a little bit here. What are you trying to do with your case? You're trying to prove the elements necessary to prevail. The plaintiff has the burden of proof. That's why you get to go first and you get to go last. Be prepared to make a rebuttal on closing argument. That's an advantage you have that you usually don't have. But the reason you get it is you have the burden of proof. If it's even, you lose. You have to carry the burden. So what are you trying to do with each witness then? You should make a list of 1 to 3 points you have to get out of that witness. On direct examination, on cross-exam. 1 to 3 points, that's all. You can fluff it up, you can put in other stuff. But you know what's important. You've got to get those 3 points in. If you're trying to destroy a witness, and quite frankly, Michelle, when you took Devon through the fact that she was distracted, that was good testimony. And you did a good job with that. And you just let it happen. You just let it come out. You're trying to show that this woman is scattered all over the place. She's got so many things going, it's a wonder she even knew she was in her car. That's what you're trying to do. And you do it in a way that you testify. That's one thing you all did pretty good on cross-examination. On cross-examination, the lawyer testifies, not the witness. The questions are capable of yes or no answers only. That's it. And quite frankly, you did a pretty good job of that, Hawkins, when you kept that witness on the area of yes or no. And that's all you have to do. Just witness, I've asked you a yes or no question. If you can't answer yes or no, let me know. And then we'll go on. But you want to make sure that you're the one in control, you're the one testifying. A direct examination is a little bit different. If you get away with cross-examination, that's fine. The court ain't going to let you do that. And the opposing attorneys certainly shouldn't let you do it. On your own witness, this is your witness. You can only ask why, where, when, what. But there's a reason for that. The jury wants to hear the witness testify. And second of all, this is your witness. Spend the time with the witness. It should almost be like an act where you know well in advance where you're going and the witness knows how to respond. That's why it's your witness. And any lawyer is going to spend hours, certainly with their important witnesses, before a trial. And that's not, in a sense, coaching. Because a lawyer can say, look, I don't tell the witness what to say. I may suggest to the witness how to say it. And those are two different things. So if it's your witness, if you have to put that witness on the stand, you better spend time with them. And you better be on the same page. Cross-examination, you know basically what they're going to say. You testify. And that's just, that's the rules of how you have to proceed. I can't overestimate the importance of objections. So I know between now, those of you that go on are going to have to spend a lot of time on that. and it's hard to do. You know, I've been doing it for many, many years, and it's still difficult at times. But what you want to make sure to do is you can tell when someone's hurting you, when a witness is really hurting you. And what you want to do is break the flow sometimes. And it'll usually be where the witness has gone too far, beyond what the question was. That gives you the right to come in and say, you know, objection, Your Honor, is there a question on the table at this time? Anything like that, but you break the flow a little bit. Now, can you call that gamesmanship? Maybe. But that's what both sides must be prepared to do when you're trying to make your case or defend your case. Another thing you want to keep in mind, it's like anything else. You're trying to convince the jury of what your position is. You don't do it with your nose down in the notes. You don't do it by hardly talking. People are going to listen to you anyway, so you might as well say it out. Say it loud enough that everyone can hear it. You have to have an energy to you. Now, does that mean you stay behind the podium? No. Some judges will insist that you stay behind the podium, but most of them won't if you don't abuse it. You don't go up and beat the witness on the head, but you can move around. You should leave the podium once in a while when you're looking at the jury and talking to them. These are the people that are making the decision. If they can't hear you, how can they help you? If they can't hear you, how can they decide for you? So you have to keep in mind, this is what you're trying to do. You're trying to convince someone that you're right and the other side's wrong. And you do it by being prepared, and you do it by presenting your case. And you can't do it with your head down, and you can't do it from reading everything. Now, this is your first shot at these things. As you go on and do these things, you'll get looser about it. You'll have a better understanding of it. You know what you're trying to do. Should you have notes? Absolutely. If it gives you confidence to write something out, that's fine. But you have to look up. You have to look at the people you're trying to convince. If you don't look like you believe what you're saying, how do you expect them to do that? And quite frankly, folks, we're in front of a jury. That's really what it comes down to. The side is confident, the side that is proper, the side that appears to know what they're doing. Those are good points. They're important points. You don't chew gum when you're in the courtroom. You know? No gum.
All right.
Now, most judges would have had you leave the room, get rid of the gum, and then come back in. No gum in the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
All right. When you have exhibits and you're going to introduce them, in a courtroom, plaintiff has 1, 2, 3, 4, defendant has A, B, C. Doesn't make any difference because you're all using the same here, and I can tell you might be different things. Why wasn't the bull put in by somebody? That's a huge animal. You've got an exhibit for it, but no one put it in. The fences, why weren't they put in? That looks pretty puny to me, those fences do. You know, these are the things you have to think about that you need to get in. The important thing here is when you take an exhibit and you're going to offer it, the first thing you do is you ask the court for permission to approach the witness. He's going to say, why? I have an exhibit I'd like to show the witness. Then you get up and you give the other side a copy of it. Here you all have it. Then you go to the witness, and remember, this is your witness now. I'm handing you a document. What is it? What does that have to do with you? When was it taken? Did you take the picture? What does it depict? Is it an authentic depiction of that? You know, you set the foundation of what it is, and you offer it to the court. Offer Exhibit 1. The court's going to maybe have a question or two. The court may ask the defense counsel or the other counsel, is there any objection? If there isn't, it's going to come in. Once it comes in, then if you want to show it to the jury, you ask permission to publish it to the jury. Most courts now will tell you no, not until you're done. Some courts will let you show it right away. Today we use television sets. So what you do now is you put it under the scanner, and the jury there, every 2 jurors have a television monitor anyway, so they can look at it that way. So there's different ways of doing it. Also, in a civil case like this, you're going to have pre-tried the case. And the judge already knows what each side's going to offer. So he has a pretty good idea what's coming in, and you may already stipulate to some things that's coming in. But that's not what you're going to be doing in your exercise. You have to offer what I suggested to you. And then the court will make the decision. You never want to get haywire with the judge. You may get mad, you just bite your tongue. The judge may make a ruling you don't like. He's the boss. He makes the ruling. You have to live with it. You just bounce with it there. All right? Let's go some things here. Now, I was pleased to see the cross-examination roll. You did a good job on that. Brittany used good control when you were doing the cross-examination. You asked at one point, Daniel, about can you read an instruction? You can't. The law is the province of the court. The court's going to instruct the jury as to the law. You know what the law is, or you wouldn't be in this lawsuit. So you can ask questions to frame within them some of those aspects of the law. But no, you cannot read an instruction. Number one is, at this stage during the trial, that instruction isn't in evidence. The court may not allow that instruction. He may change that instruction. So that's one reason. The other reason is you're supposed to bring out the facts, not discuss with the jury what the law is until you make your closing argument. All right? Those affidavits are important. They set the stage here. There are many things you could have used on cross-examination with the various witnesses in dealing with those affidavits to impeach them. When you have a case like this, it can go either way. It's a close case. Every little bit counts. Impeachment is an important factor. When you got through with the housewife and all the kids and everything, I felt that I wouldn't believe anything she said. And I wouldn't because she was flighty. She was all over the place. Had other things on her mind. She was very busy. And I particularly felt it was a good job you did in bringing out the fact that she allowed her children to see the Holy Youth Night. In fact, I remember the affidavit. She wanted them to see that. It would be a life experience for her. And so that was a good presentation. Really, folks, you did a nice job when you consider all that you have to do in a trial. I know I've seen some of you before, and I know some of you will go on. But the truth of the matter is, keep in mind what it is. It's an exercise in persuasion. And just relax and enjoy it. You're trying to say to people, look, I'm right, he's wrong, here's why. You ought to just let it be. There's no reason not to speak up. People want to hear what you have to say. Even if it's wrong, they're going to hear it anyway, so you might as well get it out there where it's not confusing. All right? Good luck to you. I enjoy doing this with you. We'll see what the jury does to it. If you got any questions, I'd be glad to help you with that, or answer any questions you might have. Sure.
One of the main questions I had, but it's probably not even like a good question, is can you object to a opening statement and closing statement?
Sure. Now, I want you to keep in mind, usually the jury wants to hear the lawyer in the opening, and usually the jury wants to hear the lawyer in the closing. So sometimes, although you might want to object, you have to consider the impression on the jury. So you better be really correct if you're going to object during the closing argument. In the opening statement, again, this is not usually done simply because it's an opening statement. But yes, you can object. And sometimes it's proper that you do so when the attorney's way off base. Particularly in closing argument, the attorney may say something that's absolutely contrary to what the evidence is. And sometimes it's important. You may object and say, I apologize, Your Honor, but I have to object. I challenge the record on this. The attorney's not correct. Now, usually the court's going to say, well, that's for the jury to decide. But what you've done is you've drawn it to the attention of the jury that maybe this person isn't being honest in the argument, or is mistaken. Either one of which is bad.
Your Honor, there was an awful lot of leading questions taking place during direct and redirect.
Well, that's where you have to know your objections. And George is correct. If you're in this competition, you start asking leading questions, and they're going to be all over. And this is, like I said, this is your witness. You shouldn't have to ask leading questions. The court sometimes will allow some leading questions when it's preliminary. Counsel, I want to take you back to the night of the 13th of July. You remember that? Remember that day you were walking down the street? Those are leading preliminary. The court may allow a little bit of that. But when you get to the key things, you cannot lead. The witness, everybody would know where you are going to work. Because in any competition or any report from that's the first thing you're going to check. And that's, if you don't have those things with your witness correct, when you're lazy, you're not doing your duty. You have to have your witness ready, your own witness ready. And of course, in most trials, you're talking about experts and everything else that have to do it. You have to be on the same page. And that's your duty. That's your obligation as a lawyer. It's easy to lead. It's hard to look at it.
And Your Honor, sometimes it would seem that...
You know, I love to hear him say Your Honor.
During cross, it would seem almost as though new evidence was coming forth, not based off of the direct exam.
Sure. And technically, if you are offering something that is not connected with the direct exam, technically you're not supposed to offer that. Most courts now will allow some of that. And the reason why is the court knows that someplace it should come in, it better come in, where you anticipate it's going to come in. But technically correct, you can only cross-examine what has come out and been testified to on direct examination. And likewise, redirect can only touch upon items that are new, raised into cross-examination. And of course, in the proper case, someone's going to object. Gone beyond the scope of direct examination. But nowadays, it's becoming more and more allowable. And I say that not because the law is changing, it's because that's the normal way of getting business done. Flow of strict rules to meeting of rules. And that's just right now the courts are in a place where they allow most evidence in, trusting the jury to make the decision. And you got a jury now that's having trouble and they're making a decision.
The jury said they'll be done in less than 5.
All right.
This isn't about this case in particular, but we get one shot at a case a year, and this one happens to be civil. But it is hugely important that they understand what the difference might be in the courtroom situation, or what the expectations of the jury are, or what the expectations of lawyers are between the civil and the criminal system.
Sure. And what we're talking about here is that in the courtroom and the world that we live in, there are two basic types of cases. Now, there are others, but the two basic ones are criminal and civil. What you're dealing with here is civil. Civil is where citizens have a contest or a dispute between themselves. It usually involves money. That's your civil case. The rules are different. The criminal case is where a citizen has been charged with a crime, and the state is prosecuting that person. Now, the difference is very simple. Number one, in a civil case, the burden of the plaintiff is to prove by a preponderance of the evidence the elements that he must prove in their case. And that means it is more likely than not that this happened. That's your burden. It's a tipping of the scale. In a criminal case, the proof is beyond a reasonable doubt. That scale really has to move to prove that. In a civil case, you can call any witness that you can subpoena or that you can convince to come to court. In a criminal case, no one can force that defendant to take the witness stand. That's their decision to take. In a civil case, you can have a 6-person jury. In a criminal case, a felony case, as opposed to a misdemeanor, but a felony case, you have to have a 12-person jury. That's by Constitution. So those are some of the elements. In a civil case, you have attorneys representing each side that are in practice. In a criminal case, you Now, the state is represented by a prosecutor who's full-time and does nothing other than prosecute crimes. Those are some of the basic things. It's the burden of proof that makes the big difference. And the fact that the defendant will not be forced to take the stand. I guess we got our jury. Has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, we have.
Are you the foreman?
Yep.
Now, usually what's done in a civil case now is the foreman gives the verdict to the clerk brings it to the judge makes a big deal of looking at it and gives it back to the clerk to read. But here we're going to dispense with that. Would the foreman please tell the attorneys in the courtroom what your verdict is?
Okay. So we decided that Red Devin would get about 40% of the blame, RC Charlotte would get 50, and Kelly Harper would get 10.
All right, thank you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that's the verdict of the jury. Most courts, once the jury's been excused, will allow the attorneys to talk to the jurors. And if the jurors wish to visit with them, they may do so. Some courts will not allow that. In this experience here, if you'd like to do it, I have no reason why you shouldn't ask these fellows how they came to their conclusion. They don't have to tell you, but if you want to, you can.
I would like to ask where we got Charlotte gets 50% of the blame. It's almost unanimous that proper maintenance of the fences and gates wasn't kept by either the ranch hands or Charlotte.
All right, we're done. We're excused. Court is out of session.